The Thing is a 1982 horror movie directed by John Carpenter. If you judge the entire film solely based on Kurt Russell's frozen beard, the movie would automatically be a 10 out of 10. Before we get started, click on that red subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you know whenever I post a new video. John Carpenter is one of those directors that drives me absolutely up the wall. On the one hand, he's responsible for creating not one, but two of the greatest horror films of all time, with Halloween and the movie we're talking about today. On the other hand, he's also responsible for complete and utter garbage like Ghosts of Mars and Vampires. He also made Big Trouble in Little China, which a lot of people adore, but I have mixed feelings about. So let's just ignore the garbage and talk about The Thing, a movie that I sit down and watch at least once a year, a film whose constant sense of tension and dread still hold up today. Spoilers to follow, obviously. While The Thing mostly takes place at a small American research outpost in Antarctica, it starts off with a Norwegian helicopter chasing a dog through the snow. You see a pair of those crazy Norwegians are doing their damnedest to murder said dog with guns and grenades, but clearly they're not really qualified for this line of work, and the dog safely makes it to the American outpost. The Norwegians are actually so desperate to fill Old Yeller with bullets that the following two things happen. A guy tries to throw a grenade and accidentally tosses it in the snow, blowing up the helicopter along with himself. The other guy shoots one of the Americans in the leg, marches straight into the camp in pursuit of the dog, and is promptly shot in the head and killed by the base commander. If you set aside the low-key synth soundtrack, the staging of this entire scene is mostly unremarkable and actually kinda boring. This serves as a great way to disarm the audience while also piquing our interest. What's up with the dog? Why are the Norwegians so desperate to kill the dog? Why doesn't Wilford Brimley's character have a mustache? All of these questions will be answered in due time, except for the mustache question. That's not in the movie. But for now, The Thing is going to use this setup to introduce us to our cast of characters, all of whom, at least initially, are kinda unremarkable too. Generally speaking, when you have a movie, it's important to establish some things about your characters. Where are they from? What do they care about? What are their motivations? Why are they even here? The Thing somehow manages to establish almost none of these details, but that's kind of the point. These are everyday guys just doing a job. We know next to nothing about their families or how long they've even been in Antarctica. There are no exposition dumps or flashback sequences to tell us about them. Some of the guys are more loud and assertive, some are more quiet and reserved, but they're all handling isolation in their own different ways. We're not setting off alongside them at the start of a journey, we're simply checking them out and observing them in their element. And that simplicity is enough to establish a relatively laid-back tone in the very beginning that will rapidly escalate as the story unfolds. After the situation with the Norwegians is resolved, we receive a few good character moments to establish the narrative. Helicopter pilot R.J. McCready and Dr. Copper fly towards the Norway camp, where a few things transpire. First, the guys find a massive chunk of ice with a huge hole missing out of the middle. Clearly something was in this ice and is not anymore. Secondly, they find a guy who cut his own throat with a straight razor and then just sat down in a chair and froze. Lastly, there's a massive, malformed humanoid creature outside that has been burned to death. In what turns out to be a massive mistake, McCready and Copper bring the burned humanoid back to the American base for study. In a rather disgusting sequence, the camp's biologist opens up the humanoid and finds that it has a complete set of human organs. In case you haven't seen the movie or haven't quite picked up on this yet, it turns out that the dog in the beginning, yeah, there's something very, very, very wrong with it. That dog is in fact not even a dog. It is a long dormant shape-shifting alien that was accidentally dug up from the ice by the Norwegians, and if it leaves Antarctica, there's a very good chance that it will rapidly expand itself and wipe out all of humanity. Another pretty significant issue with this entire thing is that when I refer to shape-shifting, I'm not just talking about one person turning into another. I'm talking about the fact that this creature consumes and assimilates its prey and then successfully mimics all of its features. It looks like them, it talks like them, it sounds like them. For all intents and purposes, it is them. When John Carpenter was making the movie, he has said that he didn't want a guy in a suit playing the creature. He wanted to create a monster that could be anywhere and be anyone at any time. This turns out to be a great move, as there isn't really a specific bad guy for us to look at. There's no Jason Voorhees or Chucky or the Xenomorph from Alien. Heck, John Carpenter himself popularized the modern slasher flick with Michael Myers a mere 4 years before this movie. For all we know, the Thing in its purest form could just be a pile of sludge that you could stuff into a barrel. As the creature starts doing the inevitable murder and mayhem, the movie turns itself into a masterful combination of tension, paranoia, and body horror. Imagine that you've been living with a group of people in isolation for a long period of time, and all of a sudden, you know with absolute certainty that one or more of them wants to kill you. That is infinitely more terrifying than someone just wandering around the base or hiding with a knife. So the movie's established what the Thing is and how it behaves, which now forces every character to question which one of them could be the alien. Why won't McReady shut up? Childs, why are you so quiet? You're usually way more talkative. Palmer, I don't really like your facial expressions. What are you hiding? The film's script is smart enough to know when to let the characters say these things out loud and when to let the silence do all of the talking. Now, speaking of characters, Kurt Russell's McReady isn't technically in charge of the base, but as the clear alpha of the group, doesn't hesitate to take charge when things go crazy. And they go crazy. He doesn't ooze charisma or play the macho guy. He's still just a regular dude who's been put into a really bad situation. Russell also took a full year to grow out his beard for this movie. It's not quite his mustache from Tombstone, but it's still acceptable. Also watch Tombstone, especially if you want to watch Kurt Russell slap around Billy Bob Thornton. Keith David Childs is an interesting character. As we approach the back half of the movie, it becomes clear that he and McReady don't really like each other and have some sort of past beef, but the movie doesn't even bother getting into it. Again, the film's decision to show a little bit of restraint goes a long way in building mistrust between these two characters. When your entire film is based on the idea that nobody here can trust each other, this is an effective tool for ratcheting up the anxiety. If you remember the diabetes commercials from the 90s, you would immediately recognize Wilford Brimley. That's Kansas City Chiefs head coach Andy Reid, but I see the resemblance. Okay, that's Statler from The Muppet Show. And that's the Lorax for some reason. Okay, there we go. Actually, give me the Thing Wilford Brimley without the mustache. Perfect. Brimley plays Blair, the base's biologist, who does his best to ensure that the alien never leaves the continent. Brimley also gets the most fun part of the movie, which includes him smashing up the base's equipment, shooting wildly at people like some sort of maniac, and basically acting like someone's crazy grandpa. There's a moment where Blair has to autopsy one of the creatures, and he gives this sigh and a look like, are you freaking kidding me? You guys are really gonna make me open this disgusting thing up. Brimley was given this role specifically for his everyman persona, and he pulls it off like a champ. The moral of the story is this: we don't deserve Wilford Brimley. One element of Carpenter's films that always works well is the music. The Halloween theme is as bare bones as music gets, and nearly impossible to get out of your head as soon as you hear it. The music for his film version of the Stephen King novel Christine is also fantastic. The Thing has a much more subtle score, but it's just as effective and deeply unsettling. He originally hired someone else to score the movie, but ended up creating most of the music himself. As The Thing has aged, much praise has consistently been given to the creature effects. To say that they are gross would be a huge understatement. This isn't guys just getting blown up or stabbed. This is guys' heads detaching from bodies and then sprouting arms and crawling across the floor, faces splitting open, dog murder. And in one of the most memorable scenes, a defibrillator caves in a man's chest, which then turns into a giant mouth and rips off a guy's arms. Yes, it's bloody. Yes, it's R-rated. And yes, it is awesome. I could make an entire video just discussing the scene where McReady conducts blood tests on the entire crew, which, as you can imagine, goes horribly wrong. I saw the movie myself for the first time about a decade ago, and I really do envy anyone who gets to see it for the very first time. The movie's airtight script also allows for a decent amount of humor. Much of the back and forth banter between the guys still makes me chuckle. And these aren't Marvel movie quips, they're legitimately plain old-fashioned good writing. The last thing I feel compelled to discuss is the ending, because it is a doozy. If you have any sort of ill will towards unresolved endings, you are going to absolutely hate the ending of The Thing. After the creature has wiped out basically everyone, Childs and McReady are the only two guys left. The last known remnants of the creature have been toasted, and by all accounts, the guys are safe. They're in the snow, the base's generator has been destroyed, and what's left of the building is on fire. Childs has just spent the last 10 minutes of the movie off screen with some BS excuse about how he got lost in the snow, but he very well could be the creature, and this is never stated out loud by either of them. And then the film just ends. McReady makes the suggestion that they share a bottle of scotch, and then it fades to black. There are so many different ways that you can interpret this ending. McReady was infected by the thing at some point, and he's going to kill Childs and then freeze in the snow and murder the eventual rescue team. Number 2, Childs is the thing because he just disappeared from the story and is now back for some reason. He could easily just kill the unarmed McReady and then freeze in the snow and murder the eventual rescue team. Another option is they're both the thing, and they're both gonna just freeze in the snow and murder the eventual rescue team. The last one is that neither of them are the thing, and they'll both just die in the snow. The only good or happy ending is the last one, where they both just die. Any other possible ending absolutely ends with more bloodshed, and the creature possibly destroying the entire planet. Based on my last viewing of the film, Childs is absolutely the thing, and we're all completely screwed. This is a textbook way to leave your audience desperate for more information. You could say that this is simultaneously one of the best and worst endings of any movie. The Thing is everything you want in a great horror flick. It's gory, it's scary, it's disturbing, and it is uncomfortable. There's a prequel movie that came out in 2011, and it's also called The Thing, so if you're gonna check this out, please make sure to watch the right one, because this one is way better. Thank you so much for checking out the video. If you liked it, click on that subscribe button and the like button. You can also share the video. Let me know what you think of The Thing down in the comments, and I will see you next time.